everyone, my name is Caitlin, welcome back to my channel. So as you guys know, the new Disney Channel original movie premiered last Friday night called Upside Down Magic, and so I'm really excited to talk about it today. So just like always, I'll do a non-spoiler section first, and then I'll follow that up with the full spoiler section where we'll go and talk about all the details, all the things I loved, all the things I hated in the movie. And so yeah, with all that being said, let's just jump right into it. So Upside Down Magic follows these two best friends who are about to attend magic school. Once they get there, they have to take this placement test, and that's where the lead character, Nori, finds out that she has wonky magic, which makes her a UDM. So UDM stands for Upside Down Magic, and when someone is classified as having Upside Down Magic, they're sent to this other part of the school where they try to get rid of their magic forever. It is worth mentioning that this movie is based off of a book series. I haven't read the first book yet because I wanted to save it for my DCOM versus book series, so I can't speak on that. But overall, I would say that it was an okay movie. Like, I liked it, but I didn't love it. I actually hated it the first time I watched it. I thought it was so boring and made no sense. And then once I watched it again for this review, I was kind of able to appreciate it for what it is. And so I think if I were to rank it on my DCOM list, it would probably be near the beginning of the last video I made, so like somewhere in the 70s. Like, I didn't love it, but I also didn't hate it. I don't think it's a terrible movie. I feel like it's a little bit forgettable. Like, it's one of those DCOMs where if we don't get a sequel from it, I could see it being forgotten about in a few years. But overall, I feel like it was a good time. If you like DCOMs, maybe check it out, but I don't think I would recommend it. Like, I wouldn't go around saying, watch this movie, it's so good. But if you want to watch it, if it sounded interesting, check it out. So I'm a little bit worried that this review is going to come across as being very negative, and so to kick things off, I figured I'd start by listing off the things that I really enjoyed about the movie. First of all, I loved the concept of it. I mean, you could say that the concept is just Harry Potter, but I do still think it is interesting to see Disney's take on something so similar. I loved how diverse the cast was. This could be because of the characters that they're based off of in the book series, but either way, I thought it was great to see. I also found the effects to be pretty good for a DCOM. I mean, I didn't like the opening shot where she was like standing in the window. That looked really bad. And I also didn't really like when they transitioned into animals. That made me a little bit uncomfortable, but overall I felt like the effects were pretty good. I loved the one animation that they used for that like storybook thing where they were telling the story of the shadow magic. I thought that that was really cool. And then lastly, I loved the UDMs. I loved their bond, I loved their friendship, and seeing them all work together really made me root for them. But that is all I have to say for the things that I loved, and so let's move on to the things that I didn't love. The main thing that I didn't like about this movie is the whole concept that everyone is defined by their one thing. This is something that bugs me about a lot of Disney Channel shows and movies. I think Liv and Maddie is a great example of this. You have Maddie, who is defined by basketball, and Liv, who is defined by performing. And I just don't think that that is a good message to portray to children, that you need to strive to be good at this one thing, and that one thing is going to define you. And if you don't have this one thing, then that's bad. Where they broke this mold was in High School Musical, and I think that that's one of the reasons why it is one of the most popular DCOMs of all time. Because they said, here's the jock, but hey, he also likes performing, and they said, here's the math geek, but she likes performing too, and that's okay. We can all like whatever we want to like. We don't need to be defined by this one characteristic. And so when they opened this movie with that line, I was really hoping that by the end of the movie they would go against that and be like, just kidding, you can like whatever you want, you can do whatever you want to do, you don't need to just do one thing. But then they were like, nope, and just said the exact same line by the end of the movie, and it just made me mad. I just personally don't believe that everyone needs to be defined by their one thing, you know? Just do whatever you want, just have fun, explore your different interests, explore your different talents, do sports, do arts, do theater, do whatever makes you happy. Just don't let it define you. Let you define you. Just be yourself, you know? It reminds me of when I was little and I used to tell myself that like I was a theater kid and so I'm not into sports and I don't like gym class, where it's like if I would have actually given those things a chance, I probably would have really liked them. I think I am a fairly athletic person, and maybe I would be even more athletic today if I would have let that in when I was younger, but I was under this impression that I needed to be defined by my one thing, and my one thing was being a theater kid, whereas that really didn't need to be the case, you know? And so it just makes me sad to think about all the other kids that could be limiting themselves to just one thing, or are just sad because they feel like they don't have a thing, because I'm here to tell you that you don't need a thing. Just do whatever makes you happy. So I found myself asking so many questions, especially in the beginning of the movie, in regards to magic, and I feel like this is mainly because they didn't set up the world very well. First of all, does everyone in the world know about magic? I mean, I assume that they don't because this school seems to be kept a secret, but then how did the two leads meet, and then how did they both know that each of them had magic? This is something that could have been explained in just like one line, but it wasn't. And then also there was that one girl when they were waiting at the magic stop that was just like flying in the air, and I was like, I feel like if this is supposed to be a secret, you probably shouldn't be doing that. I also wanted to know if their magic came from their parents or if it was like a random thing. She mentions that her mom has magic, but do you have to have a parent that has magic for you to be able to get magic? Or can it be like a random thing like in Harry Potter? Also, when do you get your magic? Is it like an age sort of thing, or do you always have it, you just never know how to use it? I felt like there were so many questions I kept asking in the beginning of the movie that they could have answered in just like one line very quickly and would have been super easy, but they didn't, which sucks. And I'm sure that they do in the book, but I feel like you need to explain these things in the movie as well to be able to understand the world better. But moving on to the school, I have to say that I hated Sage Academy. I thought that it sucked. I hated the whole concept of this placement test. Like, aren't these kids going to the school so that they can learn how to do magic? Why are you expecting something from them when you haven't even taught them how to do something yet? Like, I guess you could kind of say it's like an audition for a performing arts school or something, but in those cases, anyone can be a talented dancer if they try hard enough. I think, I don't know, maybe that's not true. I'm sure a lot of it is based on like natural talent and stuff like that. But for magic, there's only a select few of people that are actually given magic. Like, you already know that they have this ability, so why don't you teach them a bit first before you start deciding where you're gonna place them, you know? Like, put the placement test a few weeks after they've already been there for a bit and they've already learned something. Which, speaking of, I also hated all of their teaching approaches, especially to do with Reina. As far as we saw, they weren't actually teaching them how to do anything. They were just saying, do this, and then they were just expected to know how to do the thing. I'm like, why aren't we seeing them actually being taught how to do stuff here? It just seems like they're expected to know what they're supposed to do. At least the Fluxers were being given some sort of guidance, but that really didn't seem to be the case with the Flares. Also, why popcorn? Why were they only being taught how to make popcorn? Like, that's what the microwave's for. Why is the scale so important? I just remember watching the movie and thinking, like, how long is this popcorn unit? Are they not gonna learn anything else? And then I also loved when she was giving into the dark side. It was like manifesting your untapped power, and then she looks over at the kernels like, yes, I will give into the dark side so that I can pop popcorn. But I guess that was kind of the point. Like, the similar thing was with the Fluxers, where all they were able to do was turn into goats by the end of it, and so it was supposed to show that like their teaching techniques weren't great. But then it just made me sad when the UDMs ended up joining the school in the end of it, because I was just like, they should just be starting their own school, because this school clearly does not know what they're doing. Also, can we talk about the furries for a second? Like, talking to animals is such a lame power in comparison to all of the others. It also seems so weird to me that talking to animals would be like its own power. Like, shouldn't that just be a part of the Fluxers' ability or something? I just remember at the beginning of the movie being like, what are these kids even gonna do at the school? And then it just pans to a shot of them sitting down talking to a llama, and I was like, I guess that's what they'll do. I just like don't get how you teach someone to communicate when they already know how. But then again, that's coming from someone with a degree in professional communication, so maybe it's not that different. Something else that I really liked that I didn't mention before was the whole twist with the shadow magic girl only being visible to Reina. I thought that was a really good twist that I didn't see coming, and I thought that they did the reveal really well. It did make me question though if only Flares were vulnerable to this shadow magic thing, because the other kid was also a Flare. The whole lesson was that anyone can be susceptible to dark magic, but I just feel like there's more proof now that it's mainly Flares. I also loved how in the end everyone was freaking out over this big shadow creature when it really wasn't doing anything. It was just like standing there, like moving around. Like, even all the chairs were still upright by the end of it, so I was like, what was he even doing? Like, he was just standing there. I also loved how the jobs that they used to describe normal people were accountant and dog groomer, because my dad is an accountant and my mother is a dog groomer, and so I just thought that that was funny. So this would normally be the part where I talk about the characters in the movie, but I honestly don't have much to say about these characters. Like, none of them really stood out that much to me. I found the two main girls, Nori and Reina, to be a little bit annoying, which, like, I know that they're kids and so I should expect that, but a lot of the other Disney Channel shows and movies are centered around kids their age as well, and I'm usually not annoyed by them, and so I don't know what it was about these two girls that just annoyed me, but yeah, I didn't really like them that much, which sucked. I also had to mention that I found the head of Sage Academy to remind me a lot of the fairy godmother from Descendants, except for the complete opposite, because the fairy godmother is amazing and this girl was just the worst. But I will say that I love the actress who played her. She was also from Sunny with a Chance and Dead Brother, and so it was nice to see her in something again. And then the last person I wanted to talk about was the head of the UDMs. I keep forgetting his name because when I was watching the movie, Jackie called this other character Honduras, but I thought that she was referring to this guy, and then in my mind I was like, yes, that is his name. His name is Honduras, and I feel like he really looks like a Honduras, and so I'm just gonna refer to him as Honduras from this point on. I will say that I really liked his character in the beginning, but then the more the movie went on and the more he just kept talking, I just found him to be trying too hard to be like that cool, laid-back teacher, and yeah, it just seemed like he was overacting a little bit. But I will say that his singing ability was definitely the best part of this whole movie. It made me laugh so hard, and I also feel like by the end of the movie, I did start to really like him again, and so if we do get a sequel, he could potentially be one of my favorite characters. And then I usually talk about the ships for these reviews, but there isn't really much to talk about. Like, Nori and that one guy were hinted at, and I assume that because this is based off of a book series, their relationship is kind of a slower build sort of thing, but because we didn't really get to see much of them in this movie, it's hard for me to say if I do ship them or not, but I will say that they did have a few cute moments. like this movie can be summarized as being Zombies meets Descendants 3, but without any of the songs. I just couldn't get over how similar that one UDM classroom scene is to the scene in Zombies where they go down to the basement and find out that they have their classrooms down there hidden from everybody else and that they have the janitor as their teacher. That was just like this movie, except for instead of the janitor, he was the groundskeeper, and I just couldn't believe how similar they were. And then the whole thing with Reina and caving into the darkness, and then the whole lesson being that anyone is capable of that, is just the exact same thing that happened with Audrey in Descendants 3, and you guys know how I feel about Descendants 3, and I still think that they did it better in Descendants than they did in this movie. Overall, it just makes me sad that I could see people saying that this movie is just like Disney Channel's failed attempt at Harry Potter, because I do feel like this movie had a lot going for it, and I'm sad that I didn't love it. Like, I just think it's a fine movie. It's like, okay. I am curious to see if we do get a sequel, if it'll make me like this movie better. Kind of like with what happened for me with Zombies 2. Like, either way, I'm open to a sequel or not. I think it'll be interesting to see where the story unfolds if we do get another movie. But I want to know what you guys thought about Upside Down Magic. If you loved it, please let me know why in the comments down below. But anyways, Cater Tots, that's all I'd say for today. I hope you'll have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you very, very soon. Dime cuántos más con las mismas ganas. Why do I sing so much when I make videos? It's like the camera turns on and it's like, time to sing. Honestly, I feel like that's just my life. I'm just singing all the time, so that's probably why. I just notice it more when I'm being recorded.